said a few months ago when I stood in this place, I began attending here in 1969, which means literally I have grown from a young to an old man. I was put pen to pencil, later pencil to paper, to discover how many memorial services I've been either officiated or I've been involved in. The number is in the 30s. Is it any wonder people are starting to avoid me? What this means is that probably with the exception of 3 or 4 other people in this church, I have said this covenant more than anybody here. But I confess to you, it is more cerebral until you've had an experience in which you are the recipient of the insights that are contained in this covenant. Because once you're the recipient, a word such as Demeter's does not refer to a goddess in Greek mythology. It has to do with a group of women who are the backbone and heart of this church. When you hear such words as caring connection, it reminds you of the time when you're on the flat of your back in the hospital and a veritable group of people bringing food to your house to feed the people who are helping you. Let me be more specific. My wife, late wife Mildred, had a remarkable and distinctive education career. She spent 45 years in the schoolroom, passionate from the last day that she taught. Right after she stopped teaching, she picked up a habit that disturbed me. She began asking the same question 4 or 5 times in the space of a half hour. I became concerned and took her for medical help. The news was not good. And for the next decade, I had to watch her slow descent into the dark world of dementia. I have to say that in that 11-year goodbye, almost all of it has become a blur in my memory. I got up each day and did what I had to do. What is not a blur is what this church began to mean to me as a person. I asked Jim Eller to go to lunch and informed him the news of my wife's dementia and told him that our responsibility to the church would be changing. I said, we will still attend, but we will not be able to be as active as we once were. And good pastor that he was, he said, what can we do for you? I said, well, probably not a lot, but one thing I do request, when we come to church, ask the people, do not talk around Mildred, talk to her, she still is a human being. And did you folks make good on that? The first Sunday that we were back, she was greeted with a long hug from Lynn Cheatham. It's put a smile on her face for the entire day. In a note of irony, I later performed Lynn's memorial service, Alzheimer's. But from that moment on, there was such an outpouring of love that I did not realize that hugs and handshakes and letters and cards could mean so much to your sustenance. In that process, I joined a group of people in eastern Jackson County called the Seekers. They were started by Bill and Sandy Ewens and Gerald and Dorothy Cole. We call ourselves the Seekers. Most of the time we don't know what we're seeking, but we know what we found. We have found love and acceptance like we found at no other place in this church. And I could not talk today without mentioning one person who has been the embodiment of our covenant. I refer to a wonderful man that we said goodbye to a few months ago, Gerald Cole. Gerald flew under the radar in this church. I have never had so many responses from people after the memorial service, many people whom I did not even know, who told about wonderful gestures that had been shown to them by Gerald Cole. I say, Gerald, thank you. You were the embodiment of those words, and to help